Well, let me bring out people that you guys already know and love. Let's start with Rome Flynn. Up next, we have Charlie Weber. Woo. And of course, we have Liza Weil. Relative newcomer to the show, Amira Van. Of course, have to bring out Asia Naomi King. Yes, yes. Matt McGorry's coming out next. Conrad Ricamora. And of course, Jack Paley. I think you guys also know that means that Miss Viola Davis is in the house. And of course, we're gonna welcome creator and executive producer, Peter Nowak. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Paley Center. All right, so I want to actually start down at the end with Asia and just have everyone kind of talk about, you know, how this project came to you and what made you say yes. Go way back.
Way back, six seasons ago. No, I was living in New York when I saw this script, and of course I saw like Shondaland and was like, fuck yes. This is like a not bad to curse kind of a thing. Making sure.
Your best.
Yeah. And then I read this phenomenal pilot and knew I would give my firstborn child to be a part of it because it was insane. And I was like, this is gonna go. And this could change my life, which it has. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, that kind of answered.
It answered it. I love that. How about yourself, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I was living in New York City, living my life. It's where I grew up. I said that I would only ever come to LA for work, and you know, the call came, and you know, Shondaland called, and
You answered.
I answered. You know, it was like the bat signal, except it was just the Shondaland logo, the little TM in the corner, and you know, it felt right, and the character, you know, I was really intrigued by the fact that the character was called Doucheface. I felt like there was a lot of possibility there, you know. And to be honest, actually, we were all cast. You know, we got to Philadelphia before we even knew Viola was there. But if I knew Viola was there too, I would have been even more excited to jump on board. Yeah. So, and here I am, and I'm dead.
Oh, me? I was just supposed to be in the pilot, so I didn't think that I would be here 6 years later, but here we are. No, I went in initially in like December for the role of Wes, and then didn't hear anything. Clearly was not what they were looking for, yeah. And then in January, I got a call from my agent, and they were like, oh, they want you for this one episode to play this character, Oliver, who Connor hooks up with to get information about a case. And I was like, yeah, I have no TV experience. I would love to do this. And then when I found out Viola was attached, I was just like, I mean, I remember sitting in the theater watching Doubt and watching this woman completely steal a scene from Meryl Streep. And then from then on, like, I just was like, I will follow this person wherever they go because this person is good at acting. And I like acting, so maybe I should follow that person. And so so here we are 6 years later.
I had a friend of mine crashing on my couch out here, and he, also an actor, and he one night was like, hey man, there's this script, it's amazing. It's called How to Get Away with Murder. And I was like, oh yeah. He's like, yeah, I'm auditioning for this character called Connor Walsh.
Friends.
And then I stole it from him. Just like
That's
Connor Walsh
story.
would.
It's a great story.
Viola?
Can I tell the truth?
Yeah, I have no idea what the truth is. Tell me. I'm back to my seat.
Well,
Uh-oh. I'm so nervous.
I had decided never to do TV ever again after I did it. I've done 9 failed TV pilots.
Really?
Yeah. 9 failed TV, and the last one I did, I worked an average of 21-hour days. So I said, and I had to drive 53 miles one way to work, El Segundo Studio. So I was like, fuck no, I'm not doing that. But then Shonda called, and at first, you know, this is #1 call sheet, so.
Go! Don't feel bad.
It was not written for an African American specifically. So I think they went out to Diane Lane, Jennifer Connelly, and they wanted to screen test me.
Not us.
Not you.
Be specific about that.
Not you, not Pete, not this extraordinary man right here who I love more than anything on the earth.
Oh.
But they wanted to
the
screen
network?
test, the network wanted to screen test me, but my manager resisted. And I was a little resistant because I said sexualized, sociopathic. I mean, I'm used to wearing aprons and holding babies. But I remember I finally signed on after I spoke to, I don't know if you were on the phone, and Betsy Beers and Shonda Rhimes.
I was just saying, like,
yeah, because
yes,
I said, I want to be a
Yeah.
real woman.
Yeah.
If I could be a real woman, if I don't have to walk around in heels, because I know y'all talk about me walking in my heels. And that's a little fucked up of y'all, but I said, but then and after that, I said yes, and it totally changed my life.
You also said one other thing.
Oh shit, yeah.
It was a very short call, which I loved. I was like, oh, she's direct, she's efficient. You said you wanted to take off your wig.
Yep, because I said if I take off my wig, then you have to deal with that shit that you see underneath it. That you have to write that, not write the, you know, the tight ass and, you know, the sex scenes or whatever. You have to write a real woman. And Pete said, oh, yeah, we could do that. And so.
I had no idea what it would mean. I was
Yeah.
like, take off your wig, do whatever you want. It's Viola Davis. Please, please, begging, groveling.
Yeah.
Anyway, here we are.
Favorite episode first season. I love that moment. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I'm going to come back to you, Pete. I'm
you
going to
don't-
kick it up to Rome.
Never come back to me.
I have something special for you.
Yes. So for me, you know, I was filming a project in Atlanta, and I was completely like swamped with it. I was doing a show with Tyler Perry, and like his work schedule was so strenuous, and I thought that, you know, they sent the auditions over, and initially I said, guys, I have no time to do this, and they said, it's Viola Davis. Like, are you okay? Like, you need to do this. So, you know, I stayed up into the wee hours of the morning, basically, called the one person I knew in Atlanta, and he showed up. And I didn't have a lot of time with the material. And can I tell him that it was a different name?
Yeah, you can tell me.
So it was, yeah. So anyway, the character's name before was Graham Wexler, was originally what Gabriel Maddox's name was.
Not as good, yeah.
And I remember all of this, I do. And so anyway.
Charlie likes that.
I love it. Graham Wexler, that's my new age.
And listen, I had no time with the material, and I was so insecure about it. I literally filmed it. I set up some furniture in my hotel room, and I put the camera facing me, you know, in selfie mode. And then I did the scene, and I never watched it, and I sent it off, and I didn't even think about it ever again. And I got back home, and they were like, hey, you know, tomorrow Pete Nowak wants to meet you. I was like, for what? Me? You know, and then I went and sat down with them, and I was super nervous, and then I ran into the casting director on the way up, and she said, hey, oh, by the way, I want to show you, this is a picture we have of you. We're going to show Pete this. And she opened the folder, and there was a picture of me, and there was like 15 other pictures under, and I went, damn. I see everybody in Hollywood for this. So then I go into the room, and before we leave, we have this cool conversation. It was super relaxing. Pete was very inviting and just asking me about myself, and made me feel comfortable. And before we left, she said, wait, I want to give you this photo. She opened the photo and took it off, and there was another photo of me under. And I was like, oh, snap. Like, what does this mean? And they were like, well, they wanted to kind of sit down and talk with you about the role. So I definitely was super nervous. I don't know if it showed. Did it show?
No, you were so smooth.
Yeah. So anyway,
You won that
that's
part,
my
yeah.
story. We did it, and now I'm here 2 seasons later. So thank you so much. Pete. Yeah.
I got this script. It was incredible. I loved it, and I wanted to be this guy. I read, it was a man who had very little to say in the pilot, but I saw so much potential in him, so much that he could do that we've all now seen. But it was that traditional thing where I went in, I read for it, and I got it. And I got that phone call. I was at my buddy's place. He lived across the hall from me at the time, and they said, it was a whole team of people, and they're like, you got it, it's you. And so I told my buddy, we should go over and drink the good bourbon at my place. And they're on the phone, my manager, everybody's on the phone, and they're like, and I think Viola closed her deal today, and it goes right over my head because I'm so excited about myself. We go over to my place, we pour the good bourbon, I have a couple of sips, and I'm like, holy shit. I think he meant Viola Davis. And the rest is history, and I'm thrilled to be a part of this.
That's amazing. Liza?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was sort of a traditional audition story as well, although there was a little bit of a loaded backstory for me in that I had epically bombed for Shondaland fairly recently. And it was like one of the worst audition experiences of my life. So the fact that I had that this sort of came up and there was an opportunity to even get in the room and take a swing at it, for me was sort of like, okay, and I went in early. Like, I didn't know who was going to be attached in the lead. I was certainly drawn to the story, but I was just really excited to even have a chance to get in the room. And I felt it went really well. And I remember calling my managers and being like, I think I was a fucking triumph, man. Just to get out alive and like not have like a debilitating panic attack in the room. It was like, I fucking did it. And I had to kind of wait it out a long time, I think, because I don't think you guys weren't sure.
We like to torture you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were setting me up for the role, which is
Good training.
but yeah, luckily it worked out, and I'm so grateful. Yeah.
And last but most certainly not least.
Oh, man. Well, this has been my gift. I came in season 4, and I was already a huge fan of everyone on the stage. So just to be able to party with you guys, and I just love them. I love hearing them talk. I mean, and they're as awesome human beings as they are actors. So as someone who came in 4, you guys had already established, set the bar so high. And everyone just kind of embraced me with open arms, and like Viola at the helm. And it's like to play opposite this queen and to have her say, the beauty about Viola and Asia, now I have scenes with you. But I was like waiting. I was like, I love Liza, please. But for these first 2 women, when you have these strong, formidable characters, and someone's really an amazing actor when they say, it's about the work, and they're able to say, I'm going to give you the power because that's what the scene calls for. And both of them, with ease, said, we're going to pass this to you, our baby. This is their show. And they passed it to me so graciously. And so I will forever be grateful for that. And I was in Costco, y'all, when I got the call. up my Costco card.
As you shouldn't. Pete, Viola kind of tipped it off a little bit ago when she talked about it, that this role wasn't intentionally meant for a Black woman. I was going to ask you, how did you create this series? And of course, I was going to ask, did you mean for this to be a Black woman? But since I know that that wasn't necessarily the intent, talk to me about getting there, and how that vision maybe changed once Viola came into the picture.
Well, it was the greatest thing that ever happened that she came into the picture. But none of the characters were written with any specific ethnicity or race or anything, like sexuality, except for Connor.
Okay.
So that was my writing process then. I don't know if I would do it the same way now. But I actually love that, because you could just like watch people and not be like, oh, they have to be identifying with this part of themselves or that part of themselves. But you are right. I didn't know that. I forgot that we offered it to other people.
Yeah.
You got lucky. Thank God that didn't happen. But I remember Estelle, your manager, she had another client auditioning for a different part, and Linda Lowy was like, Estelle, what about Viola? And I was like sitting there, like up on like this, like a little kid on the couch. And we just never thought you would do it. And then you said you wanted to get on the phone. And I was like, I'm gonna fuck this up, so I just didn't say anything. Viola did all the talking, Shauna did all the talking. And but I do remember you saying you spoke so eloquently about the wig moment. And I remember I was like, I can picture her doing the scene in the bathroom. I was like, I can see, remember when you were like rubbing at Wes's chest and then you went to the bathroom? I was like, I can see it, I can see it, I can see it. Like it just like came alive for me, and that's how I feel like with every storyline we write. Really for everyone, just like it just came alive for me. And then when we got to the pilot, and I think you showed up the day before, and I like had no time to meet, but I would just watch her on screen. It was really the scene where you yelled at Wes in the lecture hall, and she did it with such love. Like there was this undercurrent. It was so mean. The moment was so mean, but I was like, oh my God, who is this person? They're gonna teach me everything about storytelling, and that's the truth. And now here we are.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Viola, because that scene in that in the first season, it was so instrumental, I think, and that was really kind of a powerhouse moment, I think, as people were coming to learn these characters. Why was that so important for you going into the series to, I guess, humanize Annalise in that way with the removing of the eyelashes and the taking off the wig? Why was that something that you insisted upon?
Because traditionally, before that time, I did not like television. I'm just being honest. I could always tell what was network TV. I felt like everyone plugged into what was a sexualized character, and that they always looked like they were, I don't know, licking honey from the floor. They always looked like they were just sort of walking on a porno movie. There was a prototype of the leading lady. And I already concluded that that was not me. Because I don't know who that woman is. And I felt like this was a chance for me to be the palette of what people see as a leading lady, as a sexualized character. So sort of the taking off the wig was a metaphoric moment of me sort of shouting out to the rafters that there is a woman behind here. She's not a size 2. She doesn't walk gracefully in heels, but she has a vagina. And she has a history. She may or may not have trauma. There may be a reason for that sociopathy. I wanted them to deal with the human being, first and foremost. Because I have to say that when the show came out, there was more than one person, and privately and publicly, that just sort of erased me in this role. I really have to say this. I mean, articles talking about my looks and not being right for it, not being vulnerable enough, not being a classical beauty. Oh my God, I can't see her in this role. I'd rather watch Kerry Washington than her. You know, and friends calling me and saying, oh, I had a conversation with someone at the theater and they say, no way is this show gonna work with you in it, not with this role.
Whoa.
You know, those are the kind of conversations, and I saw those conversations as being magnified as cultural conversations. It's like they say Asian men and black women are the least desirable people in the world, and I fucking reject that.
Right.
It was my way of saying, and it was my way of saying, fuck it.
Yeah.
That's why I took the wig off.
Here's the thing about that role, and you know this better than I do, your cast knows this better than I do. It really was this incredible vehicle for you as a leading lady, and I want to break this down. Dark skin, black, pansexual woman, orchestrating and fixing the messiest of situations while being a badass lawyer and professor. And then you win a lead actress Emmy in 2015 for this role, which is the first time a black woman won in this category. Amazing. What does that all mean to you? Because you clearly were onto something, you know, what you just talked about, this being a cultural conversation.
I don't know. It's like, you know, when you start off acting, everyone tells you to study life. But I found, since I've had a 31 career, I find that a lot of actors just study other actors.
Yeah.
They just plug into what's been done before.
Yeah.
I tried not to do that. And so I feel that that was a testament to daring to say, and daring myself to say, that literally all the things that I've ever been told about myself since I was 6 years old, of being ugly, dark, not smart, not sexualized, that I literally could reject all of that. That there was a possibility that I could make that choice and it could land. But the other thing that it says too, that I didn't say, you know, on the stage, and I gotta say it in front of, you know, this ensemble, is that you're only as good as the people around you also.
Yeah.
And we happen to have incredible actors who literally can put their vanity aside, and they are absolutely authentic and brave about making bold choices. So that keeps me honest also. That's I don't know what that means. I got lucky. That's what I feel like it meant. I got lucky, and I was happy that I was able to stand up on that stage and give that speech, which my friend said, Viola, you went up there, you looked mad, it seemed like you just took that, you took that at me, you just say, okay, step the fuck aside, let me tell you what the fuck I want to say. And I didn't mean that, but I kind of meant that. It is my chance to say that we as people of color can be humanized and complicated. I mean, that's the thing. Don't have to be metaphors. And P and Shonda, it's a testament to what courage can, when artists are courageous, this is a result of it.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. That was amazing. Let's dive into some of the characters a little bit. Let's start with Jack. You know, of course, Jack. Connor, as you may or may not know, he's the most cynical of the group when it comes to all of the things, but especially Annalise. Because you know your character best. What is it that you think ultimately keeps him as loyal as he's been?
I don't know. Necessity, probably. I mean, I think that
Let you get into Stanford.
Yeah.
Could have been avoided.
Just let me go to Stanford. And I think that, you know, in extreme moments of trauma and chaos, you have to sort of negotiate with yourself. And I don't think that it's sort of like a complicated family, right? I don't think that Connor necessarily likes Annalise, but I think that out of necessity, he has to love Annalise in moments and trust in her and everyone else. And obviously, it doesn't always pan out.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it will pan out in the end.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
We'll find out soon.
We will find out soon. Yeah.
What does this kind of representation, this truly is for anyone to kind of jump in and talk about, mean? Because the representation of the LGBTQ plus community is so significant in this series, and it feels like it is very, it is dealt with with all of the sincerity that it should be dealt with, and kind of thinking about the conversations that you guys might inspire and encourage. Would just love to know, what it means to be portraying or to be a part of these storylines for the last 6 seasons, because you guys have really inspired these fantastic conversations at the dinner table in many American homes.
Why are you looking at me? No, it means the world to me. It's something that I needed when I was growing up and I didn't have, and it was made life so hard that to know that we're giving that to people all over the world in places that are still really strict and not accepting means the world to me. And also to be an Asian man, like Viola was saying, like that has faced racism within my own community, within the gay community. That to be able to play a character that's 3-dimensional and sexual, and not just the butt of jokes and not just the clown. I've been sitting here just for the last few minutes trying to think of the Asian men that have been on TV. And not in jokey ways. And I think of Daniel Day Kim in Lost, and that's all I can think of off the top of my head. And that's so sad. That is so sad to me. And I can think of other characters that have been Asian American, but they've all been clowns and jokes and stereotypes. That to be able to play this character that is Asian and also a part of the LGBTQ community, has meant the world to me, and to get messages from people that say that because of the relationship that they've seen on screen, they've been able to come out to their own friends and family and live their truths in their real life just through seeing our fictional portrayal of this couple. It's something that is going to be resonating with me for years, because we all have jumped in this big juggernaut of a machine, and I don't think I haven't fully realized the impact yet that we've all had on culture and everybody's ability to be seen on screen.
Yeah. Yeah, the intersectionality is, as you really just talked about, is so fantastic on this series. I want to read this quote that we hear Annalise say, and it was so powerful, I thought. And she said, quote, "I was afraid to be gay. I could have stayed with Eve, loved her, but I wanted to feel normal, accepted. So I threw myself at Sam," end quote. And I really felt like, this gave us an opportunity to have a conversation about the stigma of Black queerness. And I wanted to know, Pete, why this was a conversation that you thought was so important to have. And was that something, like a lot of other subject matters that you deal with, that originates in your writer's room? Or where does that come from? Because that felt very specific to a community of people that often don't get to see that representation.
I think the show is about every character's othered in some way, and that to me is what I love to write about. I think what Conrad was talking about, which I think a lot of probably the actors on this stage can relate to, is I go back to when I was 8 years old and watching TV, and just the idea I didn't even know what a gay person was, but I knew I was that.
Right.
And just it's a void. Your future is just a nothingness. You're going into a black void of nothingness in your life. And so for me, just the instinct to write and wanting to cast this as diverse as it is, and also the instinct to sort of make Annalise really I guess you could say pansexual, but I'm really against the label of Annalise because I think she doesn't know what she is. Because I don't think she's that, it's not, you can't put people in a box. She's the sum of all her experiences. But I think what's so interesting about, I remember I wrote that line about like I was afraid to be gay, and I was like, this is really on the nose. But it's really resonated with people because I was like, well, that's the subtext. Like that's Annalise's subtext. Obviously she chose Sam because she was afraid of Eve. But it sometimes makes me realize how like just stating the obvious and writing it very clearly really resonates with people. And Annalise, we talk about it every day. I find it fascinating. I was like, well, she's a survivor of abuse. That has to come into what her sexuality is. Like, what was her sexuality before that? What was she like at 13, 14, 15? All of that affects like who she chooses in every moment. And that's just a free-flowing, dynamic thing, which I think is everyone, and that's all I want to write about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you had mentioned to me when we were backstage that you felt like the characters or the actors who bring the characters to life in the show, they know their characters so well that sometimes you may talk with them about what their character's journey might be. So I would love to maybe start with Amira and just hear, if you could, you're the showrunner. If you could, give your character an interesting journey, like what would you love to see?
6 more seasons.
Let's they would love that, right? What would you love to see from your characters? What have you maybe told Pete?
He and I have some great meetings. We have fun. We're like shoes off, chilling on the couch. I start confessing shit. It's like we have a really good time. I think, I think the best way to answer it is just like, I never know, I don't have any specific goal of where I want the character to go, but it's an open dialogue of just human experience. And so it's an opportunity for me to just share, the things that I've been through in my life and ways that if there's something that's been kind of proposed in the audience that I remember because I'm living with the character. So I'll say, like, when I remember when we first introduced her, she said, like, the stuff that I've seen, you know what I'm saying? When she was talking to Asia's character, and she was just like, she's seen hellish stuff. And that stuck with me, because for me, that's like that's a foundation for a character. Like, when you've been exposed to really traumatic experiences, that kind of frames, do you trust people, do you not trust people? So it's just a nice way to kind of remind myself of that, and then explore why and how and who, and go deeper into character work. And oftentimes that'll Pete will come up and be like, oh my God, what about this? And I'm just like, that sounds fantastic. So I think the beauty of this world is you're surrounded by really strong, brilliant minds. And it's the same way we work like in a room. Liza and I work together today. And you can work as much as you want by yourself, but there's nothing better than being opposite someone. And she looked at me 5 billion times today, different ways. And to receive that and let it land, and really it should alter how you respond, because it's just as present and it's alive. And that's what makes it really wonderful. So I think it's like those meetings just give us an opportunity to stay fresh and alive.
Yeah, I love that. Liza, what about with Bonnie? Is there anything that we've seen of her over the last 6 seasons that maybe you kind of sprinkled a little or whispered in Pete's ear?
Like all of it.
That's not true.
I mean, so much of it.
Yeah.
But I mean, you sort of decided the initial, like once you sort of decided what the backstory was.
We both read the same book.
But this is true. But I still, I mean, I think there was the first season was still sort of like, who is this person? And we don't know, sort of uncovering, what is informing all this behavior. And what Pete decided was beyond anything that I could have imagined for myself. And once he did decide that, then it was, what I could do in terms of diving into that was infinite. And then I think since then, I mean, we check in, but much like Amira said, I think it is like it becomes more like confessional and like relating about being a human being. But I think it, for me, it's sort of remaining open to what becomes uncovered, I think, episode to episode. But I'm so happy with what it is.
Yeah. And with where she's gone?
Yeah, and I think she's become so much strong. I mean, that's, I think, something that I'm really proud of once the decision was made of her also being a survivor of abuse, is that she's constantly trying to come at it from strength and overcoming her past in a strong way.
Okay. Charlie, what about you and Frank?
I cashed in on my chip season 3. I went to Pete and I asked him to do a lot of stuff, and he let me do pretty much all of it. And it started with wanting to take off Frank's mask, his hair and his beard, and it was quite a fight. I had to fight, just so you know, to have my beard in the pilot. Ironically, 3 years later, I had a whole new fight on my hands to get rid of it. And ultimately, he agreed, and the result was you getting to see a character shed his mask and his persona and his character and the costume he'd been wearing for the first 2 seasons. He was free in a way he'd never been before, which was terrifying, and he went on the run, and he was alone, and he was scared, and he was killing people right and left, as one does. But it was a really cool thing to experience, and something I'd never done and may never get to do again, and Pete afforded me that.
What about with Gabriel?
I think my journey was a little bit different. I had to kind of interject myself into a show that already had such lineage and such just such a following and a presence that I felt intimidated, to be frank. Especially knowing my first scene was going to be the classroom scene with all these guys and also Viola Davis sitting right in front of me. And so I was shook. I was shooketh, okay? And I don't know. I just really wanted it to work, and I wanted them to like me, And I didn't know if I wanted to call Viola or Miss Davis. I didn't know what to do. You know what I'm saying? I was shooketh when I tell you this. But no, listen, Pete was so great, and especially having the conversations after I did the first season, and just his attention to detail. I don't know if you guys know or not, but the basketball stuff was added. Wasn't something that was already put into the character before I got there. It was something that Pete put in after. And he asked me, he was like, I want to do this basketball scene. I was like, of course. Like, I'm a basketball player at heart. Like, I'm a basketball player first, and then actor stuff, all that after. You know what I'm saying? I'm an NBA player in my head.
Right.
So when he told me that, I was so elated, and he's like, just so collaborative, man. And I never really experienced that to this kind of stage. And he allowed me to be free and have thoughts about what I wanted the character to be. And for me, that was just such a calming and just inviting experience for me to have, and it made me feel like I was invited by all of these amazing C-Rad right there, my boy Matt. I love these dudes. They're so funny, and I just hope that people know that they're amazing people also and great actors.
Oh, we love you.
That's it. I don't know what the question was, but that's what I said. So y'all got it.
You answered it with the heart emoji. I love that. Asia, let's go down there and talk about Michaela.
Okie dokie.
Yeah. 'Cause she's gone through a lot.
She's been through a thing or two. I feel like Michaela has been the epitome of fake it till you make it. I just didn't know that she was faking it when we first started.
Okay.
I was like, oh, she's got it all together. She's the smartest person in the room. I was like, yeah, And then it was like, oh no, like she's like, and that's one of the first things we talked about in the meeting we had starting that second season, where it was talking about just diving more into how she's really cracking at the seams because she spent a lifetime of trying to rise above her circumstances, and now it's like she's been given the ultimate test of just how far can she rise, around these people who are trying to drag her down.
You pushed him over
Everybody always wants to bring that up. But yeah, it has been this wonderful exploratory dive into this human being who, like most people, are born into a world where they feel like they can't just succeed by being who they are. They've got to pretend to be something else in order to get further, faster, and not believing that anyone is really going to invest in them. And so they've got to overcompensate for all of that. And she's been doing it to like such a 100% controlling degree that there was no way that all this could happen and she could still maintain that for herself. And I also think because of her circumstances and what we've always played with is that she's also been kind of seeking love and validation from the women around her, the men around her, you know, even though.
So just everyone.
Yeah, just everybody. Even though she claims to be all like, I love myself and that's all I need, that's not all she needs. That's not all she's needed. She has needed so much from other people, but she has been terrified to admit it. And so yeah, so I would love for her to get to a place where maybe that can be her truth, or where she can come to the truth with herself about that, or I don't know, he'll figure it out.
This is what I'm saying. Like, all I have to do is listen.
Just listen.
People talk, and I'm just like, I do take notes, and then I'm like, you guys, I go in the writer's room, it's like, I figured it all out. So it just stays in here.
Off the record.
Yeah.
Matt, how about yourself with Asher?
Yeah, so I'm trying to remember the original question.
Yeah. You're like 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, I mean, I'm loving everyone
20 minutes
speak.
ago.
I just like, I don't know what was asked originally.
No, it's all good. Is there anything that you maybe had a conversation with Pete, you know, about your character and his journey? Like, what have you kind of contributed
I got
to
you.
the making of Asher?
I got you. A lot of body rolls. It's interesting. You know, Pete and I have had conversations around. You know, both of us when we started out the show. I don't think either of us went in with the mind of sort of creating political conversations. And I do believe that the purpose of the artist, the role of the artist, is to tell the truth. And that there's no such thing as apolitical art. So oftentimes we see portrayals of the criminal justice system that are neutral seeming. And actually, the criminal justice system, the way it is I would say broken, but actually I would say designed to inflict harm, especially on poor Black and brown folks. And for me, over the course of the show, through sort of other pathways, social justice became one of the most important aspects of my life, and to see sort of the evolution of this show, and to refuse to paint a sort of neutrality of the system, which actually ends up enforcing the system by pretending that this is just the norm. I've been very honored to be a part of those conversations around the political sort of push for progression around the show. Because I did not think that the artist's role was to tell the truth when I became an actor, or at least I thought that it was my version of the truth, which was actually, like Asher, very much obstructed by my whiteness and my identity as a man. And so for me to be able to have the conversations with Pete, and for Pete to be open to different storylines and to highlighting different aspects of the criminal injustice system in this country, and to even have Gabriel playing an abolitionist on the show, which I identify as a prison abolitionist, is a huge conversation that is not happening, particularly on network television. And just knowing so many activists and folks on the front lines who are even incarcerated, who get to watch this, who are doing that work and get to see it reflected back on them while they're inside, has meant everything to me. And I'm excited and anticipating, and my bar has been raised in terms of the truth that I need to be able to tell as an artist in the future projects that I'm a part of.
Well, that was amazing. Thank you for that. Conrad, let's talk about Alice.
Fuck.
I know, I'm so sorry.
Man, I feel like
sorry.
No, I just am like every time Matt speaks, I feel like I have so much to then think about, and it resonates. And like, number one, he's just changed so much about the culture of our show, about working on the show, about acceptance and providing a safe space for us all to show up, like in a huge, he's done that in real life, besides like the work that he does as an actor. Like, it's just incredible. Like the work that you do on your own just reverberates out in so many ways that keeps me up at night and makes me think about other people. It raises my awareness of everybody else in the world and everybody else's feelings. And isn't that what we're like all here to do? And I'm just like, oh my God, I love you.
Me too. Thank you.
What? My character's journey. I think a lot of Oliver's insecurity stems from the society that he's grown up in as an Asian man, and specifically in the gay community, Asian men are like, I can't tell you a number of racist messages that I've received over like dating apps and stuff like that that tell Asian men that they are the least desirable, that they are like, castrated and emasculated and seen as jokes. That, he started out at this bar meeting this guy that showed him attention and showed interest, and for nefarious reasons, and then also took a genuine interest in him, and through that, somebody encouraging him to come into his own and to realize his power is something that I am still dealing with as an Asian man in this world of why do I feel like I have to show up and smile all the time? And it's because that's what I've been told, that's my place in society. So I just feel like I would just like him to continue on that journey, and that the beginning of this season, even when he was able to express that anger through hitting the pillow over and over again, is something that just Asian men aren't allowed to do a lot, to express anger or strength even. And I hope that he continues that journey. I hope that I continue that journey. And This feels like therapy now.
Don't worry, there's not going to be a copay charge.
Okay, good. Great. Awesome. Yeah, Medicare for all.
Medicare for all in Shondaland.
Jack?
I've given Pete a lot of great ideas.
So many.
He's only ever denied me one, and after the first couple seasons, I was like, look, Pete, a bunch of people are dying. Here's my pitch. Connor gets on a sailboat, goes off to Italy, Greece. He's just, off the coast of one of these countries. And then, I get to film in Greece. But Pete was like, get the fuck out of my island. What about you, Viola?
For me, sometimes, I hide out from you, Pete. I know. Like I'm hiding out now, I know. But everything. I want it all. There is an endless array. I mean, she's an alcoholic. She is pansexual. She is a sex abuse survivor. You can write that for years. I just personally think that no one explores the Black pathology at all. There's any number of announcements on, boy, I'm probably gonna get in trouble. I shouldn't have drank that glass of wine. Oh my God. There's any number of announcements on Deadline of yet another terrific Black actor announcing yet another great project, but they're always detectives. And if it's a Black woman, especially if she looks like me, She is strong. She has no vagina. If she does have a vagina, it's dedicated to one man. You just never know why she does it. So I think that anyone who is willing to write for a black female that has an ass and thighs and a wide nose and big lips should be allowed to do it. I don't even care if it's a wrong decision. I don't care if it pisses anyone off. Because once Annalise Keating, not Viola Davis, Annalise Keating is off the air, you probably will have, 3 female black leads on TV, and that's streaming devices and network TV. That's Simone Missick, Rutina Wesley, and Issa Rae. I mean, you could probably think of someone else, but that's the truth, okay? And she doesn't have to be a hero. She doesn't have to represent some social message. She just has to be human so you can understand when you come and you watch her on the screen, does she like you? She's just like you. And that's the most revolutionary thing that we can do right now. And really, Shonda is the only one that's doing it, you know? So I think that if I were to see her transpire over the years, it would be all of that. She'd be on the wagon, off the wagon. She'd be running after a man, running after a woman. I don't know.
Yeah.
What's your life look like?
Yeah. She'd still be taking that wig off, too.
She'd be taking it off and on and doing all that.
I love that. Well, thank you guys so much for answering all those questions. I really appreciate it. Round of applause for the cast. And now it's your turn. Show of hands, and I'm going to call on a couple of you guys for questions.
Thank you, every single one of you, for doing this. It means so much because we get to see you talking about your craft, and that means nothing but gold. Viola, have you had a chance to see Clemency yet?
No, I haven't
To
seen
see
anything
Alfred
about
Woodard on film do basically on film what you've already been doing on television, to see that type of thing, a woman who's ridiculously flawed, trying to deal with the concept of having to kill the 13th person because of that. It's amazing to me because I think to myself, that could not have happened on film had it not been for you doing what you're doing here. And that reactionary ripple is it's paramount to see those type of things happen. And I thank you for that because it's been such an amazing thing to see you do that on television and see women like that do that on film. It's spectacular. Thank you.
Oh.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
I love you. You are so wonderful. And if I might ask you to ask 2 questions, one for me and one for behalf of my mom, because she doesn't speak English well, but she wanted to ask you. So first question is for Viola. My mom was asking, what do you think, how can you relate yourself to the personality of Annalise and to yourself and vice versa? What did you give to Annalise and what Annalise gave you for in your just everyday life?
I don't think that I'm that much of a mess. As she But what she gave me is permission to embrace whatever I feel is a flaw in me. There is something about Annalise to me that is brave. Brave in her fucked upness. Brave in the fact that she just goes for it. She's a whirling dervish of a mess. And I've always been afraid of being that. You know, once again, I think that that's something that is very African American because I grew up in such kind of questionable and I grew up a mess. I grew up in a messy environment, so I felt like I had to be really straight. You know, it's like they always tell, you know, especially if you grow up in poverty and all of those circumstances, you've got to be 3 times as good. You got to be twice as good. How are you twice as good as who you are? You're trying to be as good as who you are, right? And I just feel like, and she gave me permission to even feel like I could play her. She literally allowed me to step into her and step into her life. I didn't see myself as that. I believed everything everyone said about me, that I wasn't attractive, I'm not sexual, my voice is too deep, she's not this, she's not that. And suddenly I had to play her, and I felt like Annalise was sitting right there saying, okay, when are you gonna come in? When are you gonna allow me in? And I allowed her in, and she's just unleashed all of this stuff in me. And yeah.
Thank you. And by the way, we and my husband thinks you're very beautiful, honestly.
Thank you, hubby.
And one more question for Pete, more on a personal side, with you leading as an example to all the audience and how successful your show is. For the beginning screenplay writer, what is your advice? Where to start, where to go, and who to reach, to just to brainstorm, just to be at least half as successful as you are, being so creative?
You just hire these people. Yeah.
Well, do you have any advice?
I think for me, yeah, you just start with a character and then it grows from there. So it's character, character, character.
Thank you.
And actually, there's a question right next to her.
Hi, you guys. My name is Brianna. Thank you for all of the things that you've portrayed and the stories you've told. But also, I have a question for Liza as a Gilmore Girls fan. How has it been to transition from playing a character like Paris, where she's, you know, over the top, overachiever, and then to turn to Bonnie, who's like multidimensional, multifaceted, in that she has this trauma that she's constantly overcoming?
It's been good.
Yes.
You know, being a part of Gilmore Girls was and remains to be an extraordinary thing. You know, that show continues to be in the world, and the people that love that show are unlike no other people. However, I guess, you know, my time as Paris was a considerable time ago. So I was lucky, I think, to have a gap between playing these two people. She's always kind of there, though. I mean, I think, if I'm honest with myself, like there's parts of me that are that person. Just like there's parts of Bonnie that are in me too. So I don't know if I mean, and also I don't know if I could have. If I would have been ready for Bonnie without playing Paris. I think it all, I don't know, they all inform each other. But again, you know, it's amazing to be able to answer that question and to be able to speak of playing those two people.
Please, another warm round of applause for the cast and creator of How to Get Away with Murder,